Detroit City has a new name for their stadium. MKE Torrent need flooding assistance, and journalist Jonathan Tannenwald joins the show. That and more on a fantastic Wednesday episode of Morning Kickaround. Hello and welcome to the show. You found your way to Morning Kickaround, where we cover the world's favorite game from the world's favorite country. My name is Robert Kerr. He's Jason Davis. We coming to you every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday morning. Thank you for joining us here. How you feeling, Jason?
Good. I'm ready to go. We got some good stuff today. Really big news out of Detroit and Detroit City when it comes to their stadium building, which we've been, I think, talking about on this show for a while. We had Sean Mann a couple months ago, so we had a teaser about what was going to happen, and it happened. I'm excited about that. We're going to talk about American investment in English football, not at the top level, not like Sean Bowley. That's not his name. What's his first name? It's Todd Bowley. That's his name. Todd, Sean, those white guy names, they're all the same.
That's
Todd Bowley. Don Bowley, and not that level, lower level investment in English football by Americans, and maybe why Americans are choosing that over investing in American soccer. So I think this is going to be a very good show.
Yes, indeed. I agree with you very much, Mr. Davis. Before we get cracking on our segments today, let you guys know that we are doing great with the subscriptions, over 3,100, and anyone watching this now hasn't done so, click that subscribe button. You can take your support of the program of the notch with a MK Ultra membership, a channel membership to Morning Kickaround, get early access to videos, bonus content. Check, there's some bonus content on there now, and priority commenting during these videos. This is a conversational, communal space, so folks can get their thoughts, opinions, concerns, questions, and sometimes jokes into the mix. And you can want yours prioritized, become a member of the program. And another big benefit of becoming a channel member, access to the Morning Kickaround Discord server. Great stuff. Always some great conversations going on the Discord server. So sign up now. And you can also support on ko-fi.com/morningkickaround for some very specific fundraiser goals. And you can also find us as a podcast. If you like Spotify, we have full episodes over there.
Yeah.
Thank you for everyone who's reached out on the Gmail, morningkickaround@gmail.com. And we are also on social media at mkickaround on X, Instagram, and Blue Sky. You ready for some segments?
Yeah, let's do it. Let's dive in.
All right, let's kick those long balls here on Wednesday's Morning Kickaround. All right, we're opening the show, as we always do, with our long balls. Some headlines to start us going here today. Under a year to go to World Cup 2026. I saw an awesome city poster for hosting in Seattle.
You did?
So we're getting the
Visual.
juices flowing for hosting a World Cup in less than a year. And some a kind of a funny headline coming out in the LA Times. FIFA is now starting the search for 65,000 volunteers for next year's tournament. That seems like a big undertaking.
I didn't know that there was a visual for the World Cup already. You're giving me news. First of all, this is the story that you're talking about here. FIFA wants 65,000 volunteers. Now, as the headline at the LA Times says, if you want to attend World Cup games for free, you can volunteer and go to games for free. Of course, the big question is, why does a billion-dollar organization like FIFA need volunteers? That's a question. Should they just pay a bunch of people to do whatever this is that they're asking volunteers to do, Rob? I saw a couple of people posting on Blue Sky about this, and I think we have to be careful we don't throw the baby out with the bathwater, because my reaction is, oh, this is bullshit. What are you talking about? You need volunteers, this money-making organization that swoops into a country every 4 years, or 3 countries in this case, and just starts mining all the money that they can, squeezing everything. They make cities pay for their own security around stadiums. There's the agreements that FIFA requires of host cities, they're insane. It's why Vancouver initially said no. It's why Chicago said, No, on some level. I would love to have games in Chicago. Remember, the opening game of the 1994 World Cup happened in Chicago. Not going to happen this time around because Chicago was like, this is extortion. And this feels like part of that. And yet there will be people, if they can make peace with FIFA being what FIFA is, will say, I would love to volunteer for a World Cup. What are you talking about? This is a once in a lifetime opportunity. Let's go. Especially if you think of yourself as sort of a builder of the game in America, this may be a gig you're on board for.
Especially, the headline that says you want to watch it for free, they need volunteers. And I think that's going to be definitely the bait, because with I think tickets go on sale early in September. All the kind of the precursory plans that have been released about the ticket releases all seem very complicated and very expensive. So they might really lean hard on that free tickets for volunteers. I know most big events do lean on volunteers for, like, just kind of herding the crowds and kind of for some simple jobs like that. But that they are gonna, FIFA, I'm saying, it's gonna release some big number of the revenue that is projected, or this or that and the other. And if people at the top are going to be making crazy amounts of money, it's a lot of volunteer labor to be leaning on.
But this is the trick, right? It's not people at the top making crazy amounts of money. It's FIFA, which is, of course, the custodian of the sport globally, that is making stupid money, which then they will say we'll put back into the game, right? We're not actually taking this money out. In fact, I think I saw that Gianni Infantino's salary, and this is a salary, there could be, the man could be getting bags of money under the table. I don't know. There could be stuff going on we don't know about it. And I guess if I was in England right now, I might be in trouble legally if I say stuff like this out loud. But here, I think I can say it. We don't know exactly what his real income or his real package looks like, but he's something like $4.7 million a year is his salary.
Oh, that's a nice take home.
It's a nice take home, but I think if you compare it to things like the commissioner of the NFL and things like that, he's kind of poor. He's kind of a pauper. He's like pulling up the rear on that. But again, he gets to jet around the world on FIFA's dime. He's doing all kinds of stuff that isn't really part of the salary deal, and he's not paying for this. I don't know. Again, this is all very unseemly, feels gross, but as Scred says here in the chat, Formula One does this. I believe the Super Bowl does this. This is not all unique to FIFA. It just feels weird because they could pay people if they so chose.
Yeah, without a doubt. I don't know if music events are as big of money makers, but I do know that like large music festivals lean on volunteer labor, and so it's not unprecedented, a large event leaning on some volunteers.
But again,
with some 65,000 is crazy. Like, what percentage of all labor is that for this endeavor?
3 different countries. Remember, spread across 3 different countries, 65,000. Okay. The other thing is, I guess you're saying that, music festivals, that kind of stuff. Now we're going to be talking about, capitalism and like whether it is a good thing or not.
Well, most roads these days in general conversation kind of lead back to that. But
can I do a palate cleanser here? We have other stuff we want to get to, including the big news out of Detroit. But here's a palate cleanser. Since you mentioned it and I hadn't seen it, and I went and looked it up, and because we're live, I can do this on the fly. Is this the poster you were talking about?
It is, sir. It is.
This is the poster you're talking about. Let me clear out the top there. That's Seattle's 2026 World Cup poster. A whale tail and a ball and a mountain back there, and then the Seattle skyline. That's very pretty. I don't know who did this. I should look up the artist because this is pretty nice.
That's the sort of thing. If I saw this as a kid, I would want that on my wall immediately. That's super, super cool. I saw a video. They kind of had a huge banner off of a large building in Seattle, and they kind of unfurled it like you'd see like a championship banner sort of a thing. They unspooled it off the side of a building, and it was the first city-centric hosting thing that I had seen, so that kind of got me excited and makes it more real that the World Cup is coming.
That's one of the things about the World Cup is it's supposed to bring these design things. It's supposed to capture the spirit of the tournament. Now, that's specific to Seattle, so I imagine we're going to get city-specific ones because of the breadth of this tournament. But go back and look at Spain 82. I think people point to that one. Mexico 86, which is also I was just reading today. This is dovetailing with things I'm seeing. Pablo Maurer wrote for The Guardian today a piece on design in soccer, and he talked to the guy who did the 68 Mexico Olympics, an American who went down there and lived in Mexico, get the vibes and all those things. And if you've ever seen those posters, they're gorgeous. The imaging around the Mexico Olympics in 68. And then he brought him back for the 86 World Cup in Mexico. And Pablo Maurer also talked to Matthew Wolf, who obviously is sort of the design guy right now in American soccer, one of the co-owners of Vermont Green, designed their logo and their look. LAFC, FC Tulsa, NYCFC, I think the new Chicago Fire, the one they finally got right. That's all Matthew Wolf. Union Omaha, it's all Matthew Wolf.
OCFC.
There you go. OCFC. That's right. You brought that up. Oakland County Soccer Club in Michigan used Matthew Wolf for their joints. So anyway, design stuff. Very nice. What's next?
All right, moving along to long ball 2, number of the day here. Detroit City FC unveiled the new naming and some more sketches of the brand new stadium on Monday night. They kind of bedded in, had an event at Mercado in Southwest Detroit, just down the street from the proposed new stadium. And they unveiled renderings, one of our favorite things in the show, new stadium renderings, and it's going to be called Alumnify Field. It's going to be a 15,000 seat stadium proposed to be open for the 2027 USL Championship season. The partnership builds a relationship they'd already had. There was already front of kit sponsorships. Multi-year agreement reflects a shared commitment to positive change in Detroit and surrounding. Stadium will be built near the corner of Michigan Ave and 20th, and their season tickets are on display, obviously. But yeah, beautiful renderings here. So first event to my knowledge of welcoming the fans to Southwest Detroit as the home of or future home of DCFC, but funded by a sponsor, Alumnify Field. Doesn't quite roll off the tongue, but everything else around it is very exciting.
Yeah, these are pretty pictures. I mean, they're not. We went looking. There are a couple of different angles, and there's some close-ups. You can see a close-up of that entrance that says Gate 1, home of Detroit City Football Club. There's a closer version of that. I think there's sort of a through that opening there. Obviously, this is not an entirely enclosed building, which you wouldn't expect for a second division team. They are aiming for 15,000. If you recall, again, I mentioned this already. We had Sean Mann on the program a couple months ago, and he talked about, they had originally planned for something smaller, but obviously with USL going for a first division league and some of the things that have happened, they decided that they could go bigger, and here they are. And I know there's some video out there, and they had the event, and Sean was speaking to the press. I mean, to think about the come up here, right? To think about what Detroit City was. What year were they established? 2012, something like that, Rob?
Yes, so, I believe the real beginning spawning era is 2012.
Yeah, so we're talking roughly 13 years. Okay, let's just use that number. They go from short season NPSL playing at Cass Tech High School in Detroit, Michigan.
Yep.
They a couple years later, still at NPSL, outgrow that building, move to Hamtramck, where they're playing in Keyworth. I remember there was a supporter funding round in order to fix up Keyworth a little bit. They were using porta potties. When I visited during the NPSL era, when they brought me out, when I was doing the United States of Soccer, the big news they were bringing in shipping containers to be their clubhouse and where you could get your beers and everything else. And at that point in time, Sean was saying, we're kind of more like a t-shirt company that plays soccer because of the money that they were bringing in from the imaging, how important that is. If nothing else, I mean, and Detroit City has earned everything here, but if nothing else, the lesson that they kind of teach everybody, and it is a little bit sad, but the lesson is get your imaging right, become popular in a way that goes beyond just you win games or lose games, and you can get to this point. One day you may be able to do this if all the stars align.
But at the same time, they've done it on the field as well. Were really successful in NISA. They've made the playoffs every single time since they made the jump to the championship. But just for context, going from Cass Tech, straight up high school football stadium, wild atmosphere, that was predating my time. And they move over to Hamtramck and Keyworth, which they literally had to crowdsource both money and labor from their supporters to get that even beyond the what do you call it, derelict or a habitable status. To get it passable to have fans there, they had to put a ton of money and labor in there. And so I know that process really drew the fans and the club itself closer together than ever before. And that's an era. I mean, amazing that you could go from high school stadium to fixing up a decrepit old stadium. They've totally maximized that. You could say a year or two ago, you could almost see the writing on the walls that they were already outgrowing it. On those big games, there's 7,200 people there, and it's shoulder to shoulder. It's all pretty much all kind of benches and what do you call it?
It's got a non-league English football vibe to it. It does. I mean,
yeah, and everyone that I've brought there loves it. The vibes there are immaculate. And then over one wall, like the trains go by, and then you can see the old one of the remnants of which they've actually fixed up in recent years. There's a Negro League baseball stadium just behind that, so it's a very unique, very cool venue that Detroit City are in now. So it'll be interesting to go to like essentially the third or fourth chapter of the existence of Detroit City in a brand new shiny stadium. And I'm sure the supporters wouldn't have loved it if there was leaning. I mean, the whole club seems to be against, using taxpayer money for entertainment and stadiums like that. And they've stayed true to those core values and sought out funding that doesn't lean on the taxpayer. So big bonus there. But another big jump in the progression of Detroit City as a professional soccer team to go to a brand new shiny stadium. And also interesting, you noted that this all came about in the midst of in real time as the Pro Rel and the first division announcements come out. So big long-term planning having to pivot midway to adjust to the new landscape ahead of us.
Yeah, but I mean, how look, if you're talking chaos theory, butterfly effect, which is what a bad Ashton Kutcher movie, but also that theory of if a thing
it explained
happens,
butterfly effect. People know what that is now. Bad
that's
movie
true.
now.
That's true. I mean, well, it's also just if you went back in time and killed baby Hitler, how much better would the world be? Like that kind of stuff. Like in your head, like different timelines and stuff.
Yeah.
It's arguable. I think it's arguable that if not for Detroit City's success, and if not for NISA fumbling the bag and pushing Detroit City to go into USL, right? To find new investment, which, is a silent partner that's not pushing Detroit City in a different direction than the spirit of the club. If not for things like that, maybe USL isn't at a point where they can say, let's do a first division. Let's do Pro Rel. You have to have anchor clubs like Detroit City. You have to have provable concepts. You have to be able to say, look at what Detroit is. We can do that with other places in this country. Now, there are other comparable stories, right? I think Chattanooga is a comparable story, et cetera,
Chattanooga is the led the way for Detroit. They kind of based their start on them.
Without Chattanooga, there's probably no Detroit, right? But Chattanooga leads to Detroit. Detroit leads to this. And again, this is, at least in planning stages, leading to USL Division I and potentially promotion and relegation coming to the United States of America. And I think, again, I don't know that it's too much to say that Detroit City is again sort of the inception point for a lot of the things that have been happening over the last 15 or 20 years in this country. Now, I mentioned that we had Sean Mann on the show. I did clip up a little bit. I think the location here is interesting, and to get some insight, and maybe Rob, you can provide some. I know we had producer Jenny. You guys know Detroit way better than I do. Here is a clip that I pulled up of Sean Mann being on our show. I think this is, when was this, Rob? 3 months ago? 2 or 3 months ago, talking about location. Let's see what I got here.
So, we spent 5 years behind the scenes looking at various sites and engaging on, transactions and trying to secure land. And I think we caught everybody off guard that we were able to assemble 13 parcels owned by 5 different private entities, and somehow no one figured out what we were up to. And the site we settled on is right kind of just towards the bottom middle of the site. It's just a mile or so west of downtown, and it's really a dead former industrial area, an old meatpacking district and rail spurs that separates Corktown, which is one of the most historic neighborhoods in the city, where there's a lot of small business, a lot of development happening, and Mexican Town, where I live, and which, as the title would indicate, has a large Latino population, and we're really bridging these two neighborhoods that there's already existing, entrepreneurial spirit, small businesses, a lot of retail.
Lost it there, but I think it gives you a sense of what they've managed to do. I mean, this is also, again, this is the work. You don't want to say, oh, how lucky were they, or how fortunate, or everything came together in a way that kind of defies explanation, because this is Detroit City doing the work. Now, other clubs may not be able to find the same kind of opportunity. Detroit, I think, is particular in that way, Rob, because it is sort of in a rebirth phase. That means there's a lot of opportunity to do things like take over a decrepit hospital and slaughterhouse and turn them into your stadium site. That might not be a thing in other places, but man, it's just so cool to see this. And I really hope I get a chance to go out there and see this place when it gets going.
Yeah, it's exciting times, and the biggest footprint for soccer that Michigan's ever had. I mean, there's a lot of soccer being played, a lot of youth, but it's almost all exclusively being played on like high school football stadium fields and stuff like that. So having something permanent for soccer in Michigan is huge, regardless of all that.
I want to bring in a comment. Shout out to Nate, who is a channel member, an MK Ultra. Nate saying the growth of minor league soccer, obviously putting that in scare quotes because we don't like that label, but the growth of minor league soccer has far surpassed the success of the U.S. men's national team as the most positive force in soccer in this country. It's what I enjoy hearing about the most now. Now, I would say that if you're talking about men's soccer specifically, this is absolutely true. I mean, for me, again, this is somewhat subjective. This is Nate's opinion, but I would agree with this for the most part. If you're talking about women's soccer, it's obviously a different world, and you can talk about the U.S. women leading into NWSL and the success of that league now. But this is, you kind of have to be nerdy to be attracted to this. Like, I'm going to go read about Modesto, or I'm going to go read about, again, Burlington, Vermont, which is a site of an amateur team that has all this potential. Like, you have to be really nerdy to be into this. But man, it is cool to see the growth. And this is, I think for me, long been the dream. Like, it sounds like such a simple thing, but we just got to take the map of the United States, identify any place that has the potential to support a soccer team. And obviously you need people who are invested and have money and can put it behind the idea, but just dot the damn map. Just put those pins every single place you can, because this country is too damn big for us to be stretched out the way that we've been historically. If we're going to reach our potential, we have to be dotting the map. And Detroit is obviously a big city and a big metro, and that gives Detroit City an advantage over some of these smaller places. But there's got to be opportunity. And when we talk later in the show about some of this, I think this is going to be fascinating to consider.
Yeah, definitely exciting times. One final note on this, Nicholas Murray saying that Louisville and Sacramento may be leading the way to the Chattanoogas and Detroit of
okay, that's fair. And shout out to our man Nicholas Murray, obviously always repping for USL and USL history. I would say that those teams both launched as professional operations. Their goal was not to go from amateur summer league to professional and building their own stadiums. Obviously, Louisville City has their own stadium, and they are groundbreakers in that way. A second division soccer team in America building a stadium, and obviously with two tenants, one of them being in the NWSL as well, is fantastic. And Sacramento, not getting there yet with the stadium, and there's stuff there, and we're not going to dive back into that saga, but in terms of their attendance and the success that they had there, absolutely incredible story.
Yes, indeed we do. And then just locally, I know across the country, but just as far as startups of soccer teams doing grassroots and finding success, I mean, there's dozens of teams, amateur teams across Michigan alone that credit DCFC with the inspiration to start their own club. And I'm sure that spreads wider than just Michigan. Moving on to long ball 3 here on Morning Kick Around. Facility related, but in a different direction. Milwaukee, as we know, faced some incredible flooding scenes over the weekend. And one of our viewers, Mark, thank you for the shout out, sent us over a GoFundMe. I'll read from there. During this flood, you see on the screen here, the flood tore through the MKE Torrent facility at Hart Park. Damaging is extensive. The community is heartbroken, and the club lost vital equipment, supplies, and everything they need to run their programs. The GoFundMe that we're putting in the show notes is the chance to help Andreas and the community or club leadership and the Torrent community get back on their feet. All directions or all donations go directly towards replacing the lost equipment. And for those who don't know, MKE Torrent, very established amateur club, play NPSL, WPSL. They've got a whole youth system there. But as you see on the screen, and if you've seen any of the news from over the weekend, Milwaukee absolutely pummeled by flooding, and unfortunately their facility in Hart Park damaged just about all of their equipment that they run their programs with. So thanks to Mark, a very concerned fan, wanting to shed some light, and we'd like to do so here too if anyone is able to help, or at least bring awareness to what's going on in Milwaukee.
Yeah, the GoFundMe, which you can see the entire URL there. Try to find it. I'm sure you could just Google GoFundMe and Milwaukee Torrent, and you will find it. But I'm looking at the page now. They're trying to raise $14,000. They're at $1,725 right now, so that's 12% of their goal. If we can get some help towards that recovery from Milwaukee Torrent and help them get back on their feet with their facility and those things. I mean, we've been talking a little bit about Milwaukee and the soccer scene. Obviously, we know that USL expansion team doesn't seem to be making any movement forward. We have some comments on the channel after we did an update on Milwaukee Stadium building project, which is going nowhere. There's really no update because it hasn't moved, that this was largely a real estate play and things have fallen apart. And, if we are going to say, oh, we'd love to have sort of a big USL team in Milwaukee, wouldn't it be great? Milwaukee's the kind of place that should have that. There are existing clubs in a lot of these places, right? They may not be playing the highest level of the game. They may not be professional at the USL championship level, but they are absolutely doing what they can to bring soccer to their communities. And so let's support Milwaukee Torrent. Let's help them rebuild and fix up Hart Park and get this going again. And, again, they wouldn't be doing a GoFundMe if they had a bunch of money to do this. They don't, because it's small margins. This is not about greed. This is about just getting soccer back going for Milwaukee and Torrent in their building.
Yeah, kudos. Thank you, Mark, for submitting that and putting that on our radar. And their hashtag is Anchored Together. So show some support and help the Milwaukee soccer community if you are able to do so. Thank you for everyone for tuning in right now. And if you haven't hit subscribe yet, do so now. We're over 3,100 subscribers, which is awesome. And the conversation and this show even gets more fun and better conversation the more people who subscribe.
Yeah. I want to say, like, what I love about having Mark reach out to us about Milwaukee Torrent is that that's what we want to be able to do, right? We want to be able to build bring the community together. And look, I know there are lots of places sort of for soccer fans in this country, kind of whatever kind of soccer you care about, to gather online and that kind of stuff. But I think in particular stories like Milwaukee Torrent's flooding issues and raising money, if we can be a place to help support them and bring more people to help get them back on their feet, absolutely, right? The bigger the community here on Morning Kick Around, the more reach we have to help clubs like Milwaukee Torrent or tell stories when things are good. I mean, when things are bad, we want to help them and push people in the direction of supporting that club in their GoFundMe. But when things are good, I want to know about those stories too. Like, this is almost, I'm going to just not even pretend. I'm just going to tell you what this is. I'm selfish. I would like to know more about American soccer stories that often I miss, right? I cannot see everything, because the human mind cannot comprehend all of American soccer. The European mind certainly can't. But I want to know stories that I cannot find on my own, right? You know your local soccer community better than anybody. So tell us, send us an email, drop us a line, hit us up on Blue Sky or X or whatever, or comment on a video and say, here's a story. We want to tell it. I think we're going to talk about San Francisco City, because that has come up recently in something that I got over on Blue Sky. Rob, I just shared you something in our Slack, our internal Slack, something that we want to be covering in the future. That escapes right now. I don't know if your memory is better than mine. Is your memory better than mine? Was it? No. Yeah. No. Okay. I'll look it up. Okay.
The forcing out of the fields. Oh yeah.
No. That was San Francisco City. We're going to talk about that. But Gregory hit us up on our YouTube channel on one of our shorts and says he would love for us to talk to the owner of Temecula FC. So that's something we want to do. Again, like, do I know anything about Temecula FC right now? No, I don't. Did I know they existed? Probably it was somewhere in the recesses. But again, lots of people don't. I did. If I don't know, have an intimate knowledge, lots of people don't even know that club's existed. So let's tell that story.
Yes, telling that story indeed. And, supporting this channel subscribe, become a member, become an MK Ultra. And you can also just reach out online, morningkickaround@gmail.com. You can also follow along on social media, mkickaround on X, Instagram, Blue Sky, or support outside of the YouTube bubble. We got some specific fundraising goals at coffee.com/morningkickaround. Thank you to everyone who's supported that way and every way else here on YouTube. All right, we're going to move right along with our next segment of the day. Big question here on Morning Kickaround. Hello, this is the big question here on Morning Kickaround. I'm Robert. He's Jason. Big question. Does the pro row plans and the first division plans coming out of USL, are they going to change the investment pattern for Americans that are in the market to invest in sports teams? You had a conversation that, we'll see.
Yeah. I think this is going to be a little bit of inside the mind of a soccer investor, right? I brought some evidence to the table. It's a little show and tell from my other job on the radio that I thought would be good for us here on Morning Kickaround. I would also say that I think this could be framed as we're being a little greedy if we start to question why people like the guy I'm about to present isn't investing in American soccer and it's instead choosing to put his money in the English game, because it's not. I know it's a sort of a. There's always more that can be done, Rob. Like you could always say there's not enough because there's more places that could use investment in order for soccer to happen. But it does feel like we're going through boom times when it comes to investment in American soccer. It's not as though nothing is happening. It's not as though it's a wasteland. There's teams popping up all over the place. If you go look at the expansion page for USL, Championship, League One, it is that's a long list. Now some of those projects are kind of, again, stalled out. Milwaukee, places like that haven't really gotten the momentum up, but it's not like we don't have any investment. It's just that I hear from somebody who's investing their money, an American investing their money in the English game, and I'm like, why are you doing that?
Yeah,
and I'm not sure I'm not saying like, oh, be patriotic, support American soccer first because it's your duty. I just wanted to know. So what I've got here is a clip from a conversation I had with a guy named Rob Kuig. He is from New Orleans, Louisiana. He's an attorney. He's been involved in sports investment in the past. You'll actually hear him talk about it a little bit. He owns a minor league baseball team in New Orleans. He went over to England. He bought Wycombe Wanderers, which I believe is now in the championship, and recently sold Wycombe Wanderers and now has invested in Reading FC, which is a historic club in England that has kind of been struggling for a while. They're in the championship now. So let's hear from Rob Kuig. You'll hear the question of me asking him why he's putting his money where he's putting it.
Yeah. So, Rob, that leads me into a question. I promise you I'm not trying to gotcha here. I'm just curious. I'm an American soccer guy. As you can hear, I've grown up with this game in the United States, and as much as I appreciate English football and all of that, we are watching the sport grow here in America, and I think there might be people saying, hey, why is a guy like Rob Kuig spending money in England on Reading instead of investing in American soccer?
It's a great question, and I appreciate it, but it's a different thing. When I got in 5 or 6 years ago, my background, in addition to practice in law and own some other businesses, I was a minor league baseball guy. We had one of the top franchises in America in New Orleans when we moved them from Denver, built our stadium and the like. And I saw the potential that occurred in minor league baseball in the 90s and the 2000s here in England, where valuations could go up pretty high pretty quickly if people approached it right. I thought that there was a chance to really change the model of how they did it. Really, my brother, who was a fantastic businessman, and I had that argument. He was a big Liverpool fan, season ticket holder, coming back and forth. I was not, and he told me you couldn't make money in English football because of the way they did it. And I said, here, hold my beer and let me show you. And so we saw it as an opportunity to get into a sport where we could have real ability to change how it was done, give people the entertainment that they needed, create value for ourselves and for the fans. And I didn't see that in American soccer. I'm a big fan of collegiate soccer, whether it's Georgetown or Wake Forest or Washington and Lee, where I have a couple of nephews playing. But that next level up, the economics never seem to work to me. And then major MLS, obviously, it's a good brand of soccer, but where is it if we're being dispassionate about it? It's somewhere high League One, low championship, or even middle championship. So it's not quite the same brand, and they have some peculiar rules as to how you invest in it. And truthfully, it takes a lot more money to own an American soccer team than it does one like this.
That is
All right, Rob. There's Rob Kuig on why Reading and not American soccer. What did you take away from that?
Well, it was pretty damning. He, a man, obviously resourced enough to purchase a thing as big and expensive as a soccer team. It's pretty damning. He said, I just didn't see it in American soccer. I like watching college, but at high level, the economics never worked. So I'm curious, part of where I was thinking the framing of this big question here is he like at the tail end of that trend of Americans buying in, or is this just going to be constant regardless of the changes that USL is bringing in? Or will the pro rel in the first division have to be installed and embedded before this kind of attitude of the American trying to buy into soccer? Does it take the, proof in the pudding sort of a thing? Are they going to have to see the economics change? It seems like, because he said pretty bluntly there, I just didn't see the economics working in America.
He did not outline what specifically about the economics he thought was off in terms of investing in American soccer, right? He didn't say, well, because English football has this kind of way of owning a club, and in American soccer, you have to buy a franchise or whatever it is. Or again, the way the leagues work, he didn't mention promotion and relegation. Did he? Did he say the words promotion and relegation?
No, he didn't. That's what I'm saying. Is that outdated thinking? He was just operating like he looked into American club ownership, a couple years ago, and was like, that doesn't really make sense. Why invest this money? We're not going to go anywhere. And he just doesn't change that thinking yet.
My sense, and this is just me trying to read between the lines here, all right? And maybe we should reach out to Rob Kuig again to see if he'll talk about this in more depth in a different forum, because I was, doing a radio interview that was largely about Reading, and then I flipped it to that American soccer question at the end. But my sense is that it's more of it's a turnkey opportunity if you go in and buy Reading. Yeah, there's a baked in culture and fan base that all you have to do is activate. Not all you have to do. That's obviously not easy, and plenty of people have failed at that. But I think that's what it is, right? It's the idea of I go in, I buy the club, and if we get a little bit of success, Reading as a town will respond. My fan base is guaranteed as long as I'm putting a decent quality product on the field. And by the way, correcting me, I said championship, my apologies. Wycombe Wanderers and Reading, both League One teams right now. So we're talking third tier of English football. He is saying, it seems to me that he is saying it's a lot of work to do an American soccer team. Now, you can buy an existing American soccer team, or you can invest in an existing American soccer team. But obviously, again, there is still a lot more work to be done to establish your fan base, hold on to your fan base, build the culture. When you're even in a smaller town, you're competing with other things. Like, we talked about this a lot, right? Some of these places that are having success driving big attendance numbers, NPSL, USL League One, they also have college football teams in town, right? They also have college basketball teams in town. And for all intents and purposes, I mean, now it's definitely true, but even 20 years ago and 15 years ago, college sports are pro sports in the sense that they are entertainment products that people can spend their money on. And then if they spend their money on the college basketball team or on the college football team, they might not be spending their money on the soccer club. Except in Reading, and I don't know, does Reading have a rugby team? What else are they competing with? I mean, I wonder if that's something that American soccer can ever overcome to attract guys like Rob Kuig into it. And again, it's not that there isn't investment. It's just that this is okay. Here's Mark. This is wisdom. No clubs in the UK make money. I think he bought a distressed asset with a well-respected academy after the last owner struggled to pay the bills. So it's cheaper. It is cheaper, right, to go in and buy Reading than it is to spend 15, 20, 30 million dollars to lift up an American soccer team, even at the lower levels.
Yeah, some people saying here in the chat a little bit more cynical outlook on this. Maybe he was just trying to hide his money in a different country. I mean, who's to say about that? And then Mark chiming in that no clubs in the UK make money. Then he bought a distressed asset with a well-respected academy after last owner paid the bills. That's kind of what you said. I looked up, does Reading have any competition in town? There is a significant rugby club, Reading RFC in there.
Yeah.
I don't know if those Venn diagrams necessarily overlap as much. There's definitely like rugby crowds, and
right? But again,
crowds.
but even if you have a rugby club in town, as you, it's not just the Venn diagrams. It's the culture of the town. It's the passing down of the fandom and all those things. And again, I think everybody believes that if you just do a little work, you're activating an existing fan base that maybe has drifted away or maybe isn't as engaged as they would have been. And if you climb the ladder, well, if you do a Wrexham, they're spending a ton of money. I mean, Wrexham had to bring in new investors in order to go up, but there's money there to be, and again, you can find ways. The value of the club in 3 years or 4 years, is Rob Kua going to be like, hey, Reading's worth twice as much as when I bought them. Let's sell them now. And he's out. And it is just about the economics of it, right? Rob Kuig, now he talked about his kids playing at Washington and Lee. So he's got soccer connections. He's not, his brother's a Liverpool fan and all that. It's not like he's not a soccer person on some level. But what I hear there is that's a business person who is looking for a way to make money out of soccer. And we kind of need those people to make the world go round. But I think there's always a question of like, hey, why are they doing what they're doing? And I wonder if at USL or Major League Soccer, for that matter, although it's a different kettle of fish, if they are thinking, okay, why would an American owner, why would an American investor choose them over us or that over this?
And those people, hopefully, I'm curious what Mr. Rob Kuig's reputation is over in Wickham, because soccer teams over there are kind of just like a community asset that can be a money pit depending on the economics of it. Are you in it to try to like be an important part to help lift up the community, or are you only strictly there for the sale price to be more than the purchase price? And that's where I think there are some teams in danger in the lower reaches in England for people like that. It is just an ongoing thing that's in your community that's going to cost some money. You just almost, if you got to go into it knowing that you're going to lose some money over here.
Yeah.
And that type of person that is strictly only for the money, that it does not turnkey in the United States, I think is the bottom line.
Again, this is, again, we get into a beggars can't be choosers kind of mentality, right? Because when we talk about stadium building at the lower levels of American soccer, and this is certainly true of MLS too, but it's again, we're just talking about sort of like smaller communities getting soccer teams, which is what we want to see. Dot the map, put the pins in the map.
Yep.
When we talk about places trying to build stadiums, and we go, oh, well, that's a real estate play, right? It's a developer, that's an investor who sees an opportunity to get their hands on some land, potentially with some public backing, because they're going to spend money on infrastructure. The city's going to kick in, the county's going to kick in, the state's going to kick in. This is sort of free money for them. Those things kind of have to be there in order to convince people to invest in soccer teams, when historically soccer teams are money pits. And it really doesn't matter where you are. Soccer teams are money pits, but especially when you're talking about the dicey nature of running a lower division soccer team in the United States of America. So can we be cynical and go, oh, that's a real estate play, and feel like that's the wrong way for someone to approach owning a soccer team? Or should we be saying, thank God for the real estate play, or otherwise there wouldn't be a soccer team, Rob?
I think that's kind of where we're living right now, somewhere in the minutia, and maybe even go on a specific, case by case basis. Like, we talked earlier in the show about Detroit City FC, worked for years to try to find a partner and land to make that all happen, because they want Detroit to have this thing that's a community asset for soccer, for the club, and for the people involved. But if the people are just there to create thing for X amount of dollars, at the end of the day, it's seems reasonable. Like it's not turnkey at all. So an investor looking for strictly an investment can't be picky that they chose England over United States. So if this gentleman came into an American club scene with that outlook, it probably wouldn't last very long, because there's endless cases like in Lansing. There's a businessman thought that he could, turn the Lansing Ignite into a money-making scheme. 1 year in, he lost a ton of money, and it poof disappeared like that.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, and look, and I'm going to tie this back into something I did for the MK Ultras. If you want to become a member, you can get access to some extra bonus content. I did a little bit of a talk through of Peter Wilt's 2017 promotion relegation manifesto that he wrote for Howler magazine. And it's a long piece, and Peter is very detail oriented in it, and it is absolutely worth reading, because there's no stone unturned. It's not like we should do pro rel. It's also it's there. He gets into the nitty gritty of how it can actually be done. And I think the argument where we are right now, particularly in lower division American soccer, is that pro rel becomes a differentiator. It becomes a way to encourage teams to stay the course, or at least maybe make the effort. And obviously it requires the right barrier of entry, which I think USL is trying to provide, particularly at the League One level, right? It doesn't cost you $50 million to get into League One. But I think what we're seeing is maybe pro rel is that thing that can create an environment where clubs like Lansing and Knight aren't 1 and done, 2 and done, 3 and done. And we can keep this thing moving, because again, we continue to salt the earth behind us when clubs come and go. You got to start over again. A fan who gave themselves over to a team that started and then disappeared, why are they going to come back? I mean, it's just different. Like we've got to find ways, and maybe pro rel is that thing.
yeah, and dilly do. We'll see how this pans out and see if this paradigm shifts indeed. We're going to move right along to our final segment of the day. We're going to check in with Jonathan Tannenwald, who's waiting in the wings to talk about a little Philadelphia Union here on Morning Kickround's Hot Topic on Wednesday. Hello, this is Wednesday's Hot Topic here on Morning Kicker. I'm Robert. In the middle is Jason. On the far side, Jonathan Tannenwald coming in from Philadelphia. Bit of a check-in here ahead of the Union's quarterfinal Open Cup matchup against New York Red Bulls. Perception going into the season, bleak. Union fans, definitely the fans of Philadelphia on this channel had low expectations with the dismissal of Jim Curtin and some key players, but 2025 has been pretty good. Welcome on in, Jonathan Tannenwald. Let's talk some Philadelphia.
Thank you. I picked a great time to show up. Wow.
What? Why? What do you mean? The
Right in off a pro rel discussion. I mean,
the pro rel discussion. I thought you know about what Comcast just dropped into my inbox.
No, I know about that too. I have some things to say about that once I get off here. I've been
okay. All right.
thinking about whether that deal is actually as good as it claims to be.
All right. Well, that's why I have you around. That's why we need you. We will talk about that. For Xfinity customers, something just dropped about soccer packages and TV and things. But okay, Jonathan Tannenwald is here to largely talk about the Union, and I do think we can maybe branch out from that into some other topics if we have the time. But Jonathan, as Rob just said, quarterfinal U.S. Open Cup for the Philadelphia Union. In a season that began with some big questions, but has turned into a pretty successful one, and there are still work to be done. But this is a team that now can think about a supporter shield. And obviously, if you're thinking about a supporter shield, you think of yourself as an MLS Cup contender.
Yep.
How important is the U.S. Open Cup against the Red Bulls team that's been up and down, but can certainly step up on their day?
It's important to them. I've been speaking with Alejandro Bedoya, and it's very important to him because he wants to win a trophy before he retires. And I think that he sees this, as do a lot of people, as the easiest shot they have in terms of what it's going to take. It's also winning a final if they do it, which this team has never done before. It has won a Supporters' Shield before, but it has never won a final. It has lost 3 Open Cup finals and an MLS Cup final. So they would like to have the experience of winning a final. And this is how they're going to get there, I think. There are a lot of there. It is in the nature of a lot of people in this town to assume that everything is going to come crashing down tomorrow. They're coming off a really bad tie at home against Toronto, where they only put 12 shots on a backup goalkeeper who wasn't very good. And they, everybody assumes this is going to fall apart at some point and that Cincinnati, with all its money, is going to go win everything. But that hasn't happened yet. So
we'll see tonight. Now, again, I mean, the idea that Philadelphia can fight on all these fronts kind of cuts against, again, sort of the budget things that come with Philadelphia. And yet I think that one of the narratives, obviously, Jonathan, at the start of the season was Jim Curtin was dismissed because he wasn't going to follow Ernst Tanner's plan. Ernst Tanner does not shy away from thinking his plan is the best plan, and it seems like he's being validated right now. Obviously, give Bradley Carnell a lot of credit, Jonathan, but how much of Ernst Tanner's plan is being proven correct here, and is this something that will stand the test of time as the Union work to develop the talent that they have traditionally, but also manage to compete in the league?
Look, the Union have quantity of players at this point. They have depth. Do they have depth of quality? That remains to be seen, because they only have one ball-controlling midfielder who plays on a regular basis, and that's Quinn Sullivan. Cavan is not old and developed enough yet to be getting starters minutes on a regular basis. He is on the way there. All of the Man City fans in the chat are going to call me a lunatic, and I'm going to say that he has the skills to play, but that doesn't mean he is ready to play today for 90 minutes every day. He is not yet. Having said all that, the biggest justification for changing manager and having had the success that they've had this year is that Jim Curtin notoriously disliked using all 5 of his substitutions every game. Bradley Carnell uses all 5 of his substitutions almost every game. And I think that might be the biggest reasons why these guys haven't all popped their hamstrings yet. Even though Mikel and Ty Baribo both had overuse injuries in June, and that was a warning shot. Counter-pressing teams don't win trophies in this league in the long term because they run out of gas. And everybody's wondering if the Union are going to do the same thing.
I've got a bit of a two-part question for you. You're saying that the quality of depth is to be tested. So tonight's Open Cup Wednesday, there's an MLS matchup at the weekend. Will we be seeing a strong lineup tonight with an MLS game at the weekend? And there's been a lot of clips and posting of Cavan Sullivan with Man City. Are people getting over their skis with the hype on him, or is wait and see?
I'll take the questions in order, even though I really want to take the second question first. There's going to be, they're going to go with a first choice lineup tonight for as much a reason as any, is that Jacob Glesnes is suspended on Saturday due to yellow card accumulation. So he's going to play tonight. And that is an indication of a first choice lineup as these things go. Who's going to start it forward? I have no idea. I could see Milan Iloski starting tonight. I could see Mikel starting tonight. I could see any number of the forwards starting tonight. Now, about the Cavan Sullivan hype clips. So, one of the people who has on Twitter on a very, very regular basis spoken about Cavan Sullivan's time in Manchester a lot was not quite telling the entire truth.
Oh.
I don't know if that's allowed to be said of somebody with 90 million Twitter followers who I really don't want to come after me. You can't portray that he was, you could have inferred from the way he put it that Cavan Sullivan was training with the first team. That wasn't true at all. He was training with either the under-21s or the under-23s, I forget which. So he was running around with players much closer to his age and physical development than older people. He can play. I think he might play tonight. I am wary of him playing in certain games where I know he's going to get kicked up the Delaware River because I don't want that to happen to him yet.
Mm-hmm.
But, next year it's going to have to happen, and I think it will, but I don't think he's ready right now, today, to do everything for the Union yet.
I'm really interested in the psychology of a player who's kind of promised a position in a couple of years in a way, or not necessarily promised a position, but has like such a lingering effect that the gap between 16 and 18 is obviously a problematic area in the American soccer development. But someone who's already like, someone's called dibs on him already, and it's at such a high level. Like, is that just a weight of expectation on him? How does this psychologically affect a player like that?
He's pretty cocky, so I'm not really worried about that. He's also got a very good family that keeps him in line, so I'm not really worried about that. I'm a little more worried about whether what Man City did is actually legal.
Yeah.
But that might be for another day.
What, the purchase of him or the recent, like, bringing him back for camp's illegal part?
Both, but the purchase, certainly. He can, by British work rules, he can go over there for 2 weeks and run around with their under 21 team or whatever. So he can do that. But Man City, including when they were here in Philadelphia for the Club World Cup earlier in the summer, they can't say his name aloud. And the Union can't say why he is signed to a contract that is guaranteed through 2028. They can only say that he will leave the team after 2027, but they can't say where he's going. He can say it, his family can say it, his agent can say it, I can say it, but the teams cannot.
Yeah, this is it is a weird area. I think that if you don't look too deeply into it from an American soccer perspective, it's just like, oh wow, we've got a teenage player signed, provisionally or in the future by a club like Manchester City, and yet I think a more cynical view, whatever you think about Kevin Sullivan and his talent, Jonathan, is this is a very rich club just hoovering up talent from around the world in any way that they can, because that's the business now, right? It's not really about Kevin Sullivan showing up and playing at the Etihad for Manchester City and Pep Guardiola one day, even though they might want that on some level. It's just, hey, we've got one of the top American talents, so we can flip him if we want to. And obviously with PSR and everything else, these are all considerations.
Jason, I saved my cynicism for one of your other shows.
Okay, all right, that's fine.
I will say, though, to something Robert said a minute ago about his age, when you talk about the development of 16 to 18-year-old soccer players and the difference between 15 and 16-year-old soccer players, we can talk about the difference between 15 and 16-year-old humans and the development of 16 to 18-year-old humans in other non-athletic areas of life. There are emo, moody kids who go through stuff in high school at that age.
Yeah, no, really, yeah. Wow, I'm surprised to hear you. That's
So
that's
there's a lot in this, and the Union. This is the biggest reason why I felt it so important that he had to sign for the Union instead of going straight to Europe, and why I think, even though I'm not a Union fan, even though I complain all the time that they need to sign match-winning talent and actually win trophies for a team in a very large media market in the United States that would bring MLS a lot of money if it was winning trophies. The reason why you sign for the Union, if you're in their academy instead of bolting to Europe, it is better for your personal development to work with coaches and teachers who actually care about developing you at the age you're at.
right. Yeah.
Instead of chucking you in the deep end with 30 other kids from who knows where in the world, and City or Chelsea, which are the two teams that I think are the most guilty of this, don't actually care about you.
No.
In that way.
I mean, that's the thing. It's but then of course there's an argument, and you sometimes hear players talk about this. Oh, I didn't know what competition was until I went to Europe, and I was in training with 30 other kids, some from Spain and some from Argentina and some from wherever, and it pushed me. Right? Hercules Gomez talks about this. Like if he had had an opportunity to go to Europe as a young player, he would have been a much better player because he would have been in that environment to be pushed to that level. Now, I think that forgets that thing you're talking about, which is the human adjustment to life abroad or life in that environment and how you respond to it. But I also think that you do kind of just need to find out about players sometimes, Jonathan. Like they have to be dropped in the deep end because they can't always be protected. As American soccer fans,
there's a big difference between doing that at 15 and doing it at 18.
That is a fair statement. That is a fair statement.
In terms of dropping people in the whatever is in the pool, I don't know what the material is in the, what we call it. Ask Matt Miazga how
Sure.
that went. Ask Zach Stefan how that went.
Mm-hmm.
They are cautionary tales that I don't think a lot of people even care about or know about.
No, we forget the ones that didn't, quote unquote, make it, and we remember the ones that I guess did. Again, this remains the biggest mark against Landon Donovan in his career, that he couldn't
We can
hack
ask
it.
Caleb Wiley too. It's not
Sure.
just about the going to Europe. It's about which club you go to. I have mentioned a bunch of players here who have gone to City and Chelsea specifically.
Yeah.
Because this is what those two clubs do. Riverside Grove says at 18 it's often too late. He can't move to Europe. He cannot move to England full time because of British labor laws. If you'd like to go change the British labor laws so that you can hoover up a bunch of 15 and 16-year-olds for your club, you can go do that. But he cannot.
So that you're saying that's the British labor laws at play there and not FIFA Rule 19 that's at play?
As far as I know, he cannot. Well, it may also be some. It may also be some amount of FIFA. He could go to Europe if he had a European passport. He could go into the European Union.
Yeah.
Which Britain is not part of. I don't
that's
know.
right.
Riverside
The UK
Grove's
is not part of the
that.
European Union. I forgot about that. Brexit was a thing.
I don't know. I don't know what Riverside Grove's opinion is of that, but you cannot labor in the European Union, in the United Kingdom, coming in from another country if you're under the age of 18.
Yeah,
in the EU.
This is a bigger question than maybe the scope of our conversation here, and we were keeping it union focused with Jonathan, who knows that club and covers that club. But this is why probably the future of American soccer is tied to better academies and more academies and dotting the map, as I was talking about earlier on the show, than it is about sending all of our kids to elite European clubs.
And Riverside Grove now says again, Gio and Pulisic were able to do it. Yes, at Dortmund, there's a big difference there.
Dortmund and Chelsea, yeah, how much they care and invest in their youth is night and day.
Gio and Pulisic did it because Dortmund actually cared about developing them properly, as they do with Cole Campbell, as they do with Mathis Albert. There's an enormous difference in terms of which club you go to, and I keep singling out Chelsea and City for that reason, and I know a lot of people in England and across Europe who do too.
All right. I mean, again, Union in the Open Cup quarterfinal against the Red Bulls tonight, looking to win that trophy atop the table in Major League Soccer on 51 points. Again, I think to the surprise of some people. One more question I wanted to throw at you on Union topics, Jonathan, is the signing of Milan Ilovsky, who left San Diego after his loan ended and then pops right back up in MLS. I've seen it alleged, and this is obviously just speculation on the part of maybe a bitter fan, that Ernst Tanner was playing a long game with all of this. How did they manage to score the signing of Ilovsky, who was, in terms of goals per minute, was best in MLS when he was in San Diego?
Oh, it's not alleged. It is. Everybody involved knew what was going on here, including San Diego and the Union.
Okay. What did go on, Jonathan? Lay it out for us.
Let me preface this by saying I should never have to write a 1,000-word piece about a player signing.
Yeah, MLS though.
The way that this went into the weeds drove me and lots of other people I know up the wall. So Ilovsky and San Diego could not come to terms on salary involved in on a loan extension. His loan from Nordjylland, which is owned by the same people who own San Diego, by the way, was only for 4 months. They could not come to terms on a loan extension in terms of salary and whatnot. And San Diego, knowing the waiver rules and various other things, wanted to do him a solid by getting him out of his contract so that he could negotiate with another team in MLS and get a higher wage in some form. Now, San Diego did not value him as much as some other teams did because they thought his scoring was condensed into too few games for their liking, and they weren't sure he was going to be a consistent scorer. So he goes back to Nordjylland. He can't come back into the league except through waivers. So San Diego puts him on. San Diego, instead of letting his loan expire, cancels the loan in some form a day before it was supposed to end, which from what I was told was supposed to make it easier for him to negotiate a new contract coming back into the league because of what the waiver rules are in MLS and what contract you get stuck with, whether it was your previous one when you come back into the league, and various other things that can I say bullshit on the show or not? I guess.
Yeah, I've already said it once. You can say it again.
It's all bullshit. Everybody I know believes it's bullshit. What it comes down to is if the loan had expired, as would happen with anywhere else in the world, your loan expires, you go back to the parent club, they tear up the contract, and you're a complete free agent anywhere in the world except MLS.
Right.
You have to come back in through waivers to come back into MLS. Philadelphia wanted him, so had to buy Montreal's place in the waiver order off them, which they did, and pay it for which a few $100,000, and pay $1 million transfer fee to Nordjylland
Well,
for the player. Who they now have.
okay.
It's dumb.
Yeah, it's dumb. But hey, we got some clarity, I guess. Yeah. Thank you, Jonathan. Thank you.
Yes, indeed.
I said I should never have to write a 1,000-word piece on a player sign.
No. Yeah.
So, Jonathan reporting on all things Philadelphia Union here on Morning Kicker. Tonight, they take on the New York Red Bulls in the Open Cup quarterfinal with an opportunity to take on Nashville in the semis. Open Cup final, October 1st. Jonathan, thank you so much for joining us here on Morning Kicker. Where can the viewers check out your work?
In many places, but I guess Blue Sky is the best of them.
There you go. Look at that. Follow Jonathan on Blue Sky. And just
Tannenwald.bsky.social.
Subscribe to the starter pack for American soccer, and you'll get Jonathan, you'll get me, and then you'll be done. And then, well, there's other people that matter, but at least you'll get us. Thank you, Jonathan. Thank you, Don.
Always a pleasure, fellas.
Really good stuff.
Thank you, Jonathan, and thank you for everyone for tuning in. Before we get out of here, it sounds like a celebration is needed for a viewer coming late to the show. Second grandchild born last night, so congratulations to Chris C. Mazel on the new addition to the family. Thank you to Jonathan for joining us. Thank you, Jenny, for producing behind the scenes for us. And be sure to check out all the videos that we have stored up on Morning Kicker. And we touched on Sean Mann. If you want to go in depth with the DCFC acquisition of the land and the furthering of the plans for the stadium in Detroit, go into the archives on Morning Kicker and find that interview with Sean Mann. And then plenty of other guest opportunities or guest spots. We talked to AV Alta in California. We've talked to Westchester in New York. Lots of different districts covered on this show. And then if you are a subscriber or a channel member, you help us, get to those untold or lesser known stories along the way. And speaking of which lesser known stories, check out the show notes, the GoFundMe for MKE Torrent in Milwaukee. They got flood damage, and we talked about their travails a little bit earlier in the show. So check out the show notes for the GoFundMe for MKE Torrent. Anything before we go from you, Mr. Davis?
No, thanks to John. And check out everything that we've got going on and support Milwaukee Torrent and send us your thoughts on what other stories in American soccer we should be covering. We'll put Temecula FC on the list. I think we're going to try to talk about this San Francisco City situation. There's other stories out there we don't know about. And if you don't tell us, we can't cover them.
Oh, yeah. Coming up on Friday, I think we're going to talk to the commissioner of Midwest Premier League. They've got, before the season, they linked up. They've got a partnership with the League for Clubs. And those sort of thoughts make me think about when we talk about League One, and a lot of people talk about the regionalization of the pyramid, maybe those sort of relationships kind of bear that localization too.
You know what we should be doing? We should be doing a ranking, a bonus video ranking of badges for clubs in like the Midwest Premier League. I thought about doing one for NPSL after we talked about Hickory FC winning their title, things like that. So we should maybe we'll take a look and do some badge rankings.
All those sound very exciting. I can't wait for Friday to come. Won't you join us? But next time, until then, enjoy your soccer.